Good day, grade 12 learners. Welcome to today's English First Additional Language lesson. My name is Mandi Sandaba, and I am with Elizabeth Meyer. This lesson is brought to you by the Gauteng Department of Education in collaboration with Sibonu Discovery Center. Today, we are going to be looking at English First Additional Language revision for the examination that you are going to be writing tomorrow. First things first, I want us to look at the objectives of the lesson objectives. At the end of this lesson, you should be able to do the following. Manage your time well in an exam. Determine which section you should answer first. We'll tell you more about that. Excel in the summary question. Answer all the questions of the comprehension test. Analyze the advertisement before answering the questions. Differentiate between verbal and visual clues in a cartoon. And finally, compile a list of all the possible language questions that you may come across in the exam.
Okay, so let's check. I'm sure you know what are the three sections of your paper one. And there you can see them. By now you are the expert. Remember, you are writing tomorrow your paper one. So we have section A, that's your comprehension of 30 marks. Your section B, the summary of 10 marks. The dreaded section C, language 40 marks that consists out of your advertisement. For question 3, question 4 is your cartoon, and then your question 5 is your language and editing skills. So let's just check if you can remember all the question words that might pop up in your question paper tomorrow morning. So on your screen, you will see a list of words. And these are obviously question words that are often used, not only in your paper one, but in your paper
across the papers.
Exactly. So let's quickly test your knowledge. I'll give you a minute and just quickly figure out what each of these words mean when they appear in a question. So we've got explain, substantiate, contrast, list, quote, and discuss. So while they're busy, and these are, this is probably the most important thing that a learner has to know.
I do know that exactly, because this is how questions are phrased. And if you don't have the basic understanding of what is expected, easily you can lose the plot.
Absolutely. It is so important to know exactly what is expected of you when you're answering each question. And the best thing that will guide you are your question words. So hopefully you've done it now and you know what the answers are. Let's check if you got it right.
There we go. Word number 1 was explain. When the question says to you, explain, what exactly are you expected to do, grade 12s? 1, you need to unpack the meaning of the word. Read between the lines when you're looking at this and that. What then is the meaning? Secondly, you need to substantiate. By substantiate, it means give a reason for your answer. So you don't just explain. Remember, explain, you unpack the meaning, but substantiate, now you begin to provide a reason because of this. This is as a result of, right? Then we move to the next word, which is contrast. When we contrast, we show the difference between two things. So you concentrate on the same aspect. For example, you will see when we move into advertisement and they say compare frame 1 and frame 2, for example, or when we are looking at a cartoon and they say compare the visual features in frame 1 and 2. If we are looking at the eyes in frame 1, we need to look at the eyes in frame 2. So this is exactly what is meant. And Liz, please go on with number 4.
So number 4 is a probably easy one. It says list, but be careful. We are testing whether you are able actually to list the answers. And that should be like a shopping list. In other words, everything written underneath each other. And then quote, we will tell you exactly how many words we need in this quote. So please make sure that you stick to what is expected of you. Remember, sometimes we can ask you to quote consecutive words. And consecutive words means one
after another.
Exactly. And not different words all over the page. So the last one is discuss. And just like substantiate, this one usually pops up on your open-ended questions. And it's usually the last question, either of a cartoon, advertisement, or of the comprehension. And this is where you're going to use your peel method to prove your argument.
I hope you still remember what the peel method is, grade 12s. At this point, you should be singing the tune. You should be singing the tune.
You're absolutely right.
Mhm. Now, the question is, are you ready? Comprehension and language, this is 80 marks, and it takes about 2 hours, grade 12. And you are encouraged to make sure that you utilize the time to the best of your ability. There is no point in finishing before 2 hours, but make sure that you at least make use of every minute, at least until up to 5 2.
Absolutely.
You agree, right? We don't expect you to finish beforehand. We don't expect you to not finish. Make use of the time allocated to you.
No, thank you for that. That is so important. You have more than enough time. But with that being said, you have to manage your time as well. Now, in front of you, you have paper 1 unpacked for you. As we have said, comprehension, summary, language, advertisement, and question 5. Right, so there's quite a lot of things that you have to do. So where do you start? The best place is in that reading time of your 10 minutes that's given to you from 8:15 to 9 o'clock. So where do you start? Please take the time to read your comprehension first. Take your time to make sure you know exactly what's going on then. Then read the summary text, study the advertisement, and enjoy the cartoon.
Exactly that. And you know what I also say usually when you read the comprehension, read it as though you're reading it for leisure, just so that you get the gist of what it's about. You can go to the nitty-gritties of it as and when you get to the questions. Right now, the point is to enjoy. As you can see, it says enjoy the cartoon. Now, how do you manage your time, or how do I manage my time? This is you. Start with a summary for 20 marks, for 20 minutes rather. So what does this mean, grade 12? Don't be confused because you probably have seen the structure of the paper. We've got section A, section B, and section C. The summary falls under section B. And why then would we say you must start with section B? One, we've uncovered that this is one of the simplest questions that you can look into. So you want to do it with ease. You've just read the article. In the 10 minutes of reading time, you still remember some of the key aspects and you've identified your facts. So you start with this. And maybe before we move to the next one, I want to emphasize that starting with this is allowed, but do not change the numbering of the question paper. So what it means, even if on the first page you're beginning with a summary, I still expect you to see section B, question 2, and then you begin to answer your summary. It doesn't mean that you change comprehension and you make it question 2, and you take summary, you make it question 1. No. I hope this is understandable to you. In fact, what we are trying to say to you, once you start with the summary, then you complete section A, which is your comprehension. That takes about 50 minutes. And you know, grade 12s, you've already scored yourself about 50% of the paper. You have your comprehension, you have your summary. Finally, you move to the last section, which is section C. Here, you're going to be looking at your advert, cartoon, as well as language.
So absolutely, I'm so glad you say that. Nowhere in the instructions does it say that you have to start with question 1. And please don't be scared. You will not be penalized in any way. The marker will find the question they are marking. And at the end, we will go through your question paper and your answer sheet to make sure all questions have been marked.
Exactly. Just remember to number them as they appear on the question paper.
That is extremely important. Absolutely. So let's look at your time management then. So if you start with a summary first, we need you to be done by 20 past 9. Remember, in your exam hall, there will be a clock. So it is a good idea to watch the clock. Then, as she said, we need to move on to the comprehension. We need you to be fresh when you do this. So about 10 past 10, that's the time when you need to finish a comprehension. Why is this important? Because sometimes you get stuck on something and you spend too much time and you don't get to finish the paper. So from 10 to past 10 up to 11 o'clock, you will have all the time for section C.
So even have a visual for you, Great Talk, to see what it's supposed to look like. Now, here's what we have for section 2, our summary. If you look at this, it's exactly what we've explained. It's the structure of how you can go about in responding to the question and the summary steps. Now, how do you get to the facts that you must identify in the question paper? We've identified exactly 5 steps for you that you need to follow. First one, you read the text, the summary text. You read it for understanding. Then you need to ask yourself, what is the instruction of this summary? Write the question on the top of the page. So you remember, we've spoken about in the previous lesson about the scenario. We look at the main instruction, what to look out for. You write that in big font or you highlight it, but you make it visible and it stands out from the rest of the text in the paper or on the paper. And why is that important? Because you know that as you move to find 7 facts, which is step number 3, you would have a clear question that you are focusing on. As soon as that is done, you then begin to do the delete, keep, substitute, and list method. What do we mean? As you read the first sentence, remember, you ask yourself this question: does it answer this question that you've highlighted or you've written in big bold letters? And if it does, then you keep that. If it doesn't, you delete it. If perhaps some of you remember, you have to use your own words, you begin to substitute. And in your substitution, this is where you use synonyms. This is where you change sentence order. You just make it sound like it's your original work. Then you begin to list your facts. That will be 1 up to 7. Step number 4, you write the final draft. Grade 12s, you are reminded, you are not expected to draw a table on your answer sheet. That is not for you to do. What is important for you to do is to write your facts from fact 1 up to fact number 7. If you have the first draft and you feel that you can still do some editing on it, then you cancel it out, then you begin to put your final draft down so that it's clear. Because the danger of not canceling it out would mean that the marker is going to mark the first summary they come across. And if you've already identified it to be with errors, it means they too are going to do that. So be very careful of that. Finally, use the checklist to ensure that you're on track. And you're probably asking yourself, where is the checklist? Remember those instructions that are given to you? List your points. Don't use more than 70 words, etc., etc. You check that, and if you are happy, you underline, then you can move to the next question. I hope, Grade 12, you are going to get the summary right. Right. Now, we move to reading the text and instructions.
So now what we're going to do is just go in detail exactly what you need to do. Now remember, the instructions always stay the same. That you can be sure of. The only thing that's going to change, as Mandisa has said, is the question, the scenario. Now remember, they want it in point form. In home language, you will write it in a paragraph form. But in this case, we need point form. Almost like a shopping list. Number your answers from 1 to 7 and no more than 70 words. And we've said this before, we are going to count. Write 1 point per sentence, only 1 fact will count. Own words as far as possible. And count your words and write it at the end of your summary. So this is the instructions. Please read through them carefully that you know exactly what is expected of you. And as Mandisa has explained last time as well, so brilliantly, identify exactly what you are expected to summarize. There will be a lot of information, but not everything is relevant to what we want. So make sure you figure out exactly what it is that should be summarized and write it in big, bold letters, either on your answer sheet or on your question paper. And I think this is important. The question paper is yours. you can work on it. You can
Exactly.
highlight, you can scratch, you can delete. Please remember that question paper is yours. Use it. So after they've written the question, they know exactly what you have to do. Now, always remain focused by reading that question every time before you decide whether a fact is relevant or not. And remember, unfortunately, we're not interested in your information. You need to stick to what's given to you. So
Exactly.
even if you feel you'd love to add something, this is not the time to do it.
You could have done that for paper 3.
Yes, definitely.
Yep, so this is how we find facts. We've already explained this. Delete, keep, substitute, list, and write. This is a beautiful visuals, Great Souls, and I'm sure you can see it. And this is what we hope you go into the exam thinking about, to say, have I deleted? Did I keep? Did I substitute? Is there a list? And is my summary written as expected? So this is just for you to have a look at. And in fact, we've put some notes there for you to have a look at. Delete what is not relevant to the question. Draw a line through the sentence on your question paper. Remember what Liz said. She said the question paper is yours and you need to use it maximally. Keep. What do we mean by keep? Decide which sentences you want to keep and leave out examples. And you might have noticed, Great House, that in the previous examinations, you find that there's a fact and then there's supporting sentences or supporting evidence, and there's additional examples to it, which could mean that one paragraph is actually talking about the same thing. You don't have to repeat that. You only focus on the main point and you put that down as your summary. Substitute. Use synonyms. Use synonyms. Big, huge. Small, tiny. Simple as that. You do not have to quote when you are not required to quote, because remember, we have a language mark for summary and you can choose to either get full 3 marks or less. It's entirely up to you. Change the sentence into the past if you must. Another tip would be start with a verb, because remember, usually with in summary, you are kind of instructing, you're telling what to be done. So you begin them with a verb, and then remove unnecessary words. And now we move to the next one, which is listing. List the sentences underneath each other and count your words. Here's an advice. Suppose someone gave you 70 rands to go and buy a summary. Each sentence is 10 rands. Once you exceed the 10 rands, it means you're going to overspend, and you don't want that happening to you. Instead, you want to have some change, right? So let's look at it in this way. Point number 1, you spend less than 10 rands. Point number 2, until the end. By the end of the summary, you have 65 words, and you are going to make us this happy as we mark your paper. Then you have to count your words, please. And not only count your words, but indicate the total number of words you have used at the end of your summary. Another one, do not lie.
Yes, remember, markers are going to count, actually. Even though you might think there's too much work, that's part of our job. We actually do count every single summary. So it's no use lying. You have to make sure. And I love your analogy of spending 70 rand.
Yeah.
It's such a brilliant way
That's
to remember.
exactly it.
It's such a brilliant way to remember.
Yeah, I hope you do remember it, Great House. Finally, write the final draft, and then you draw a line through the first draft if you have. But sometimes you probably don't need it. You get it right the first time. Absolutely acceptable. But make sure that if you've got 2 drafts, you cancel the one that should not be marked. Because if you don't do that, it means that that is what is going to be marked, right?
So you remember there's a checklist that's referred to. So the best thing you can do is use your instruction list as a checklist. So what we did here is we just changed it into question. Is my summary in point form? Tick. Are there 7 points in a list format? Tick. Is the summary 70 words? Tick. Are the sentences numbered from 1 to 7? Tick. Is there only one fact per sentence?
Tick.
So let's just stop here. What happens if there is more than one fact?
Unfortunately.
Unfortunately, we will mark the first one. And if the first one is then incorrect, unfortunately, we don't even look at the second one. So that's why you have to stick to one fact per sentence. Have I used my own words as far as possible? And have I indicated the number of words?
In brackets. And if you have, then you're good to go.
Perfect. Are you going to?
Go ahead.
So, you see, we get so excited about the summary. So, just to remind you, last time, make sure you know the instruction, what is expected of me, and use your highlighter or your pen to delete exactly what you're going to use or what you're going to delete. Don't write more than 70 words and really try to put it into your own words. We've made a list for you and we've discussed it just now. Just be careful not to change the meaning. And don't add additional information you think should be included in your summary. It's not going to work.
And you can change the tenses. We've covered that. Or you can start your sentence with your verb. These are some of the examples, right? Remember to count your words. Now, grade 12, again, we see the structure.
Yes.
And this is now an indication that we are moving on to the next question. If you remember very well, the previous one, we had section B highlighted. But right now, we move up to section A, which is our comprehension test. And this text is out of 30 marks, which takes a big chunk of marks in the paper. If there's anything to get right, make sure you get the comprehension right, because you get at least 40% pass out of it, right? Now, what tips do we have or steps for comprehension? First, you need to read the text. And by the way, this is already done in the 10 minutes, as we've mentioned before. You read the questions. As soon as that is done, you now begin to read the text again with the questions in mind. Then you write down the answers. Let's go over this again. In your 10 minutes, you read as though you're reading for leisure to get the gist of the text. Then you move to your questions. Why are you going there? So that you kind of zoom in, you skim through the actual information that you want to take out of the text. Now you read questions and the text with the hope that you're answering whatever the questions are saying. Then you write it down, and that should lead you, grade 12s, to your 30 marks.
Absolutely. So let's quickly run through how you should read it. Because I know it's easy just to say read, but there's actually a whole strategy behind it. It's really important for you to look at the title and think about what does it mean. Because somewhere we might ask you, does this title fit in with the rest of the article? So always keep your title in mind to see how it fits in. And then, as she said, you have to know what the text is all about. In other words, the gist. What happens? What are they talking about? What is the author's point of view? When does it take place? So try and get as much information in a short bit of time. And then you need to think critically. Am I reading? Am I agreeing with what I'm reading? Or do I feel this is not completely true? Read the paragraphs, the final paragraphs very carefully. Remember that your opening and final paragraphs are probably one of the most important parts of a comprehension. Because in the opening paragraph, they will give you an idea how it's going to start. And usually we'll have a conclusion in a final paragraph. And usually your open-ended questions are based on that last paragraph.
Exactly. So you should at least have an understanding that as the title concludes, what was it about? And then you'll be able to substantiate those open-ended questions that we have, right? And continuing on how to read the comprehension, you then need to study the questions carefully. And note the word that we choose here, study. Study the questions. Are the questions that you can answer easily? which questions are a bit more tricky for you, which questions ask for your opinion, because not everything asks for your opinion, right? And you must remember, whatever opinion you are asked of must be text-based. It has to be contextually fit to the text at hand that you have been given. And then, most importantly, underline the question word. You have to underline the question word. What exactly are they asking you to do? And remember, we've discussed those at the beginning, and you already have an idea of the different question words that we have. And not just an idea, but you know exactly what they're asking of you. You know when to differentiate, you know when to give a meaning, you know when to give reasons. So you have to underline the question word, and you encircle the key word or the idea that the examiner is asking of you. Next thing that you need to do, Great House, look at the mark allocation. If the question has been allocated 1 mark, you're expected to give an for 1. If the question has been given 3 marks, you're expected to provide a response that is worthy of 3 marks, because we want to maximize on whatever that is given to us. It's very important that you pay attention to the mark allocation. And then ask yourself, what do they want? What do they want? Having underlined the question word and circled the keyword, looked at the mark allocation, then you ask, what do they want? The answer to what they want will be found in the text that you're reading.
So after you've done this, remember, you know now exactly what the questions are. You need to go back and read the passage again. In this case, you'll have your pen or your highlighter in your hand, and you'll make notes as you go. So when you're reading and you suddenly think, oh, this is a place where I find an answer, highlight it immediately for yourself, or make a note to say, this might be the answer to question number 1.
Mm-hmm.
In that way, you get to know exactly where the answers are. Now, just to remind you, the question paper will be very specific. Usually we refer you to the specific paragraph. Stick to that paragraph.
Exactly.
We might even refer you to a line. So make sure you refer to that line specifically when asked to. Right. So indicate for yourself where the possible answer is. You might find, and this sometimes do happen, that there are words that are completely unfamiliar to you. Don't stress. Usually there's some clues around the word that will give its meaning away. So underline it for yourself, as you can see. Maybe put a question mark there to say, okay, I don't know what this means, but when I read further, I might just find the meaning of that word. Now, I always look out for joining words, conjunctions, because that shows you how paragraphs are linked. Are they linked together, or do they have a contrasting linking word that tells you a contrast is coming?
Mm-hmm.
That is really important. And while you're reading, try to figure out what each paragraph is all about. In that way, you will know exactly by the end what the text is in it about as a whole.
Exactly. Now, get ready to answer the questions. Now, you've taken all these and you're ready to answer your questions. You have your pen, you have your exam paper, you have your question paper. Questions start at the beginning of the text and move through the text in sequence, grade 12s. The minutes, as Liz has said, that when it guides you to look into paragraph 1, for example. So it means that we follow the order of the text. There is no way that 1.1 can ask you for something that is in paragraph 7.
No.
We will look perhaps paragraph 1, paragraph 2, or whatever the case, but it's sequential. So that is the first thing that you need to take into account. If you're referred to a specific paragraph or line, you will find the answers there. There is no way that the examiner will mislead you and say, go to paragraph 3 and the answer is in paragraph 5. So look into that paragraph and find the answer. And remember, the answers can be obvious to you, they can be hidden, or they can be open-ended. But the key thing is, when you are referred to a paragraph, the answer to that specific paragraph is the answer to that specific question is in that paragraph, right? Reread only the specified line before attempting to answer the question. In an event where the examiner says refer to line 25, 28, 30, you read that line and you read the line again to make sure that you have it clear and then you can answer it. And now, having done all of that, we look at the mark allocation. The mark allocation will tell you how much you need to write. We've already spoken about that. If it's more, you give more. If it's less, you give less. Don't do vice versa.
Absolutely.
Please.
So what we're doing now is we're going to look at possible questions that come up most of the time. So one of the obvious ones that we find is, why is the following statement false? So they would give you a statement and they would ask you to explain why it is false. Now remember, in this case, you can't say or use the word not to substantiate why it's false. You can't say that. Find a reason to explain why the statement is false. Remember, don't quote. Unless we say specifically to you, quote, you're allowed to quote. If you have to quote, make sure you use those inverted commas. And remember, we spoke about the consecutive words that will tell you exactly how many words you are required to quote, and they must follow each other. And, it's so easy to say just quote, but make sure you don't make a spelling mistake.
Exactly.
I mean, you're literally just writing from the question.
Photocopying.
Exactly. So please don't make a spelling mistake, because that will be wrong then.
Unfortunately, imagine if you've identified the 4 words and your only mistake is an I or an E because you didn't copy it well.
Exactly.
I know you can do much better than that.
Please.
We have confidence in you.
Definitely. Right. So I think we're done with this one. Let's try the next time.
Now, another question that you may come across is state 2 points, give 2 points, or state 2 ways. If you think about it, or if you look at this question, it sounds almost the same, and you're required to present 2 points or 2 ideas here. Now, you give one fact, and then you give another fact, which means you are going to get a mark for the first fact that you have identified and a mark for the next fact that you have identified. The question is clear, and so is the instruction. So you're expected to present it exactly as that. Now, use your own words and provide 2 different points that are found in the text. Remember, the other key word and key thing we emphasized is whatever answers you provide, they must be contextually based. So you're taking your answers from the text. We are not writing anything else but answers from the text. Then, in your answer book, this is how perhaps, and in a different question, here it says list 2 ways. And grade 12s, I want you to notice how both of these answers are responded to. The first one says state. There is no listing in that. We have one line. We've got your own one and the other. But as soon as it says list, then there's an expectation that it's going to be the grocery list that you spoke about. Remember that grocery list that you have when you go buy things? It must be one after the other, not in a sentence. Now,
so multiple choice ones are quite tricky at times. They can be really easy and they can be quite difficult at times as well. So the best thing you need to do is to eliminate. So you've got 4 options. Test each one to the question that's given to you and decide whether it's right or wrong. And if you know it was just completely wrong, eliminate it immediately and go through the list until you find the correct answer. You may write down only the letter and the number, or you could write down the word. That's up to you. We will look for it to make sure you get it right. Sometimes we'll use the word like give an example, and we'll use instead of using give an example, we'll say illustrate. Now, illustrate never ever means draw a picture.
Not at all.
Never. This is not the art class. So we will never ask you to draw pictures for us. Even when we get a logo, we will never ask you to draw the logo. So when you get the word illustrate, please make sure it just means to give an example. Madisha spoke about the compare. This is where we focus on similarities or differences. And when you get to the cartoon, we'll show you a good example of that.
Which we're excited about.
We can't wait. Describe, this is where you tell us what something is like. I would suggest you pretend that the person marking your paper then can't see what you see. And that's like when you have to describe everything to us.
Mm-hmm. Right, and then the other type of questions here, it says how to explain. Now, remember, we spoke about the question words and we explained what they mean and how to respond to them. In this case, we've got a question that looks like this: explain in your own words. First things first, you need to know what we mean by explain. Secondly, you need to take note of the instruction own words. If you see in your exam question paper, this will be written in a bigger font, not bigger font, but in capital letters, which means there is an emphasis that you must use your own words. How else can the examiner ask this question? They can say using your own words. Then they perhaps explain or say whatever they want to ask of you. Explain why the writer, or another way you can ask this question, suggest the reasons for including. Now, you go back to the text, line, or paragraph that the examiner has referred you to. You read carefully. Not only do you do that, it says you do not use the writer's words directly. You rewrite the words in your own words, but don't change the meaning of the sentence or the paragraph. Very importantly, grade 12, sometimes it happens that when we try to use our own words, we lose the meaning of what the text is about. Be careful of that and do not do that. Make sure that in as much as you're using your own words, you are not changing the meaning of the text. Again, think about the use of synonyms. Think about the use of passive voice, active voice. It needs to show that there is some level of comprehension about what this line is about. Then you give evidence why something is used in such a way. Why would it be that way based on what the text is saying? Finally, use full sentences. You have to use full sentences, please. You have enough time to do this, and it will work to your advantage when you use full sentences.
So, as you can see now, we're slowly getting up to those more difficult questions. They shouldn't be difficult for you, but now you're an expert. You've been doing this for 12 years or longer, so I'm sure you'll be able to answer this.
I agree.
So these are called open-ended questions. This is where we ask your opinion. And we might use words like discuss, whether the paragraph is appropriate or whether the title is suitable, or do you agree with the writer's opinion in a certain paragraph. So these are questions that want your opinion, and you have to decide yes or no, or agree or I don't agree. So it does expect a bit more from you than just the normal explain to you what's happening.
Exactly.
Okay. So let's see. We can even ask you about the visual. Do you think it has an important message? Now, in this case, they might use the word substantiate. And this is now then obviously where you have to give evidence, give reasons. And the best way to remember this is our next picture,
which is you go to court to defend your point of view. Now think about it. There's a judge, there's attorneys, and you are there. You have to defend your point. Why do you agree? Why do you disagree? Or better yet, why are you on the fence? Why do you both agree and disagree at the same time? And you need to prove to the court of law or to the magistrate why your point is the way that you think it is. And as the marker and as the teacher, I am the judge. I will decide if you were able to defend your point or if you were not able to. I hope this reminds you, grade 12, as you answer and as you go on these open-ended questions in your exam.
Yeah, and obviously the best way to answer then is obviously then to use the peel method. And so you're going to start off to say, this is the side I'm on. I agree or I don't agree. And you're going to explain why you chose this side. And obviously in the court of law, they would need evidence. And your evidence will be then examples from the text. Very important. You always have to go back to the text. Yes, we are interested in your opinion, but we're more interested to see whether you're able to take evidence from the text to prove your point and make sure you convince us. So that's appeal, point, explain, example, and link.
And link, exactly. Now, we move to the next part of the comprehension. Remember, we said it's 30 marks, but out of this 30 marks, it's divided into two parts, 24 plus 6. Now, we are going to be looking at the 6 marks that you really have to get right. Here's an example here. It says adults versus teens, how we use social media. And I'm sure you've guessed it right. When you look at the adult, what social media is he on? And when you think about your mommy or daddy, which social media network do they use? Exactly, that's the one. But when you think about yourself, you're on the other side of things, and you can see there's a bit of cool to it. Look at the cap and look at the icon that we see there. That tells us that young people are more likely to use Twitter, and adults would are more likely going to use Facebook. This is just one example. Another example here, we have adults 72%, and then it says teens 81%. But what about them? What is that? What about these percentages? It says overall social media usage. So grade 12, you need to look at the visual with understanding what information is being communicated to you and what does it mean, because then the questions that are likely to come out of here would be who is likely to use social media the most, for example. And by just looking at the visuals, you should be able to tell. For example, 81% is teens. That's already an answer. Or if they ask who uses social media the least, we already know 72% is lower than the other one, and that should be your answer. So the key thing is to read with understanding. I want us to look at the last one as well. It says age breakdown of social media usage. So there we've got 13 to 18, which is likely where you are. That's 80%, and you can see the enthusiasm. And I know you're putting your social media away with the exams coming,
Yes.
please. And then we move to the 18 and 29. It's moving to 89% usage, which is slightly more. So this is scary because it means from here on it's going up. And then we move 30 to 49. Now a bit more responsibilities are coming. Social media usage is going down. This information can be presented also in a graph or in a pie chart. You just need to make sure that you understand what is presented to you, and you're basically comprehending visual. Remember, section A is about visual. It's about comprehension. So your comprehension of comprehending a visual as well as words. These are both the texts that we have. And we move to the next slide.
Okay, so if you get this, immediately look at your text. Now, please remember there's no correlation between the comprehension text you've just read and your text speak. So don't try to find any means possible. Now, first ask yourself, what kind of text is it? We've shown you a graph, an infographic, but it can be a cartoon, an advertisement. It can be literally anything that's visual. Exactly. So first figure out, before you look at the questions, what kind of text is it? What kind of information does it show to me? Usually there's pictures and words. There might only be pictures. It will depend on the kind of text you have. But if there are pictures and words, what's the connection between the two? So you have to find that connection.
Yeah.
So before we go on then, try to find the link between the words and the pictures by reading the words and linking them to the picture. You might find that there will be a heading at least to give you an idea what the picture is all about. And how do the words then support the picture and the other way around? Now remember, we haven't even touched the actual questions. We're just taking the time to make sure we understand what the visual is all about.
Exactly.
And then you can move over to your questions and start answering them. It's really important you don't just jump into the questions. Really take your time just to analyze it for yourself.
Yeah, so we've got 3 steps, and you have to follow those steps before you can actually get into the answering.
Absolutely.
Don't skip any step. Now we move to your dreaded question, but our favorite, which is section C, question 3, advertisement. The aim of an advert, grade 12, is to 1, grab your attention, is to make you desire to have the product, is to make you interested in buying it. And over and above it, it is so that you can take action to buy and own this product. And what do we do then, or how do we sum up all of this? We've got this principle that we call AIDA principle. AIDA principle, you name it. But what we know is we grab attention, there's desire, interest, and action. What grabbed your attention when you looked at this advert? Why do you want this product or service? Why do you want to read further? What's making you go deeper into this advert that you're looking at? And how are you going to get this product or get this service so that you can come back walking as boldly and as excited as Mr. Paperback Man that we are seeing on the slides over here?
Now, obviously, with every advertisement, there is some terminology that's used, and you have to be familiar with that. So let's quickly run through them. The headline is probably the biggest and boldest words that you'll find on the top of your advertisement. It might also stand in the middle of advertisement, but it's usually there to grab your attention. That is called the headline. So if a question refers you to the headline, make sure you know exactly where to find it. The copy text is just the opposite. That's the small text at the bottom of an advertisement. And usually it is reprinted for you because it might not always be visible for you. You might find that we have words in bold. Now, obviously, they will ring alarm bells when certain words are placed in bold because then you will know it's emphasized. We might have some contact details like a website that's included. And let's see what else we can have. You'll see perhaps under your headline another word and the visuals. Now, remember, any advertisements work with pictures and words, and you have to find that connection. So look at the image or the visuals that's given to you and look at the headline as well. Now, it's very obvious, ladies and gentlemen, especially in this case, that they use different fonts. So different fonts is different type of lettering that's used to grab your attention. And obviously, the bigger and the bolder the word is, the more it's there to grab your attention. And then look out for the logo and the slogan. And by now you should know the difference and should be able to recognize them.
Exactly. And what is the first thing I saw? Here's the question for you. What grabbed your attention with this picture, Grade 12s? I'm going to give you a minute to think about it.
And I think it's such an interesting question. Yeah. And I think it's such an important question, especially with the advertisement as well, because there will be something that grabbed your attention immediately.
I'm sure you have your answers ready now. Let's see what we have here. Firstly, it's the visuals. And what exactly about it? It's the eye-catching picture that is extremely exaggerated, Grade 12. You can see this picture, probably wondering, what could it be? Is there anyone with eyes as big as this one, really? So we can see that there's that exaggeration that is put into it, right? Not only that, some of the visuals that could grab your attention in an image or in an advertisement could be these things. So they use the celebrity. Suppose now they're advertising a pen, and in that pen they put Miss whoever that is a popular figure. You already want to know about it. You want to read about it because it's used to grab your attention. Mouth-watering food. Oh, you know this. When you're watching TV and something great comes, all of a sudden you're just hungry and you want to have everything. They use luxury items to grab your attention. And not only that, there's use of striking colors. Unfortunately, you don't get to see color in your exam, but you can almost see these visuals and you can imagine what it looks like. So all these things are some of the techniques that are used to grab your attention. And they make, in fact, you see this picture, it's like now the attention is taken and the person is looking because they want to zoom into this and get more information out of it. Then we also have words that are used to grab your attention. Remember, the question was, what grabbed my attention, or what can the examiner use to grab the attention, or what the advertiser can use to grab your attention. And we speak about visuals, but now I want us to focus on the words. Words, the different fonts used, bold words, catchy phrases, placement of objects, and words showing a bargain. When we see these things, we're already running for it. We know with the change of season, and as with the festive season is coming, there's going to be these big words that are written, and you just want to go to that store and buy all those things. Those are techniques that advertisers use to grab your attention, right? Now,
Be careful. Be careful. It's not always a product that is being sold. It might be a service or a campaign. On your screen now, you will see an advertisement that says, "Life is short, clean less." Now, just by looking at it, look at the different use of fonts here. We had "Life is short," full stop. Punctuation is very important in advertisements. "Clean less," and immediately it's in the italics. We have a full stop and it's underlined. And immediately, obviously, life is too short to clean. So why not use this cleaning service? And it says free cleaning. My eyes immediately went to free. I need to save money. So this is really going to work for me. And this is one way to grab your attention. Obviously, I would want to go and read further what this lady said here. But this is a service that's offered. It's not a product that is sold. So just be careful that you don't get caught up to think it's only products
that are advertised. Exactly.
Absolutely.
Now, it can also be a campaign. So remember, we can advertise a product, a service, or a campaign. Have you heard the buzz? Look at this bee. Look at everything that's happening here. And I can easily ask you and say, what are some of the features of an advert that you can see here? We gave you a list. We spoke about a headline. We spoke about a logo, slogan, etc., etc. You are likely going to see some of these things here. But an advice would be, when you don't see some of these, those can help you answer the open-ended questions. When the examiner says to you, "Was this advert effective?" then you can come in and say, "It wasn't. I don't know where to buy this product," because the details of the website are not there. So you show the examiner that you have understanding of what an advertisement is supposed to look like. So let's look at this. I'm sure you've read what's happening already. We'll move over to the next slide.
But before you do, I want to show you something. This is we talked about it before we came back. We talked about this. It's really interesting that they've used this picture. Now, at some stage, we'll come back to it as to why this picture has been used. But I want to focus on one sentence quickly. It says, "Did you know 90% of the world's food supply, like apples, almonds, strawberries, are pollinated by bees? Without them, an industry is decimated, not killed, decimated." And I just want you to just hold on to that thought. We'll come back to it later.
Right.
Right. One of the most important things is, and I'm going to repeat it 10 times, always pretend the marker can't see what you are seeing. So please be very specific in your answer. What do you see and what does it mean? So remember, everything is placed there on an advertisement for a reason. So don't think it's useless information. The advertiser is doing this to persuade you or to create an emotional response. Now, if you just look at that mouth-watering ice cream, oh my goodness, but look how clever they've done. If you look at the Kit Kat.
Kit Kat is holding on to it.
Exactly. Yep. The Kit Kat, the chocolate has turned into fingers. So obviously there's a connection between the Kit Kat and the ice cream. It's brilliant. It's my favorite.
Brilliant. It's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. Now, what do you see from here? This is a question again posed to you. And we've discussed this briefly. And as Liz had said, that hold the thought there. But what do you see? Probably seeing a bee. But is it just a bee? It's a very big one, right? And do you think this bee is flying? They fly, right?
Yeah, they fly. But this one doesn't look like it's flying. It's lying on its side. So we would I actually feel very sorry for
I
it. They
do too.
No,
I wonder, now it makes me wonder what could have happened to it,
exactly.
which is what you should be thinking where you are, grade 12. Let's see what's happening. A bee lying on its side, and why is it so big? Is the question that we are giving to you. And remember, we spoke about some of the techniques that are used by the advertiser to say what would they use to grab your attention. They use visuals and
Exactly.
big ones, as it has been used on this specific one. And not only do we have that bee, we now move to the next slide, which Liz will tell you more about.
Right. So after we looked at the visuals, now obviously you're going to read the copy text. Remember that small print? Now they choose words, just like with the B one, where they use decimated. Decimated is a very harsh word, and they pick their words very carefully to create an emotional response with you. That's what you do. So how do you feel when you read the following words? When it says share a Coke with a friend, oh, I mean, that's happiness, isn't it? That makes you feel happy. But it can also bring up a negative response. So if you look at our horrible picture, stop climate change before it changes you. And it has surely changed this
is what will look like.
Exactly, imagine, right? So in this case, I'm getting goosebumps. You had to look at the picture. Obviously, you would not have understood what's happening until you have read the words.
So that is where then the connection between the visuals and the words come together. And it has to be explicit in your explanation, grade 12s. Now, read the copy text. Again, which words are used here? One, what words are scientific words and why? You have to ask yourself that question and be able to respond to it. Have statistics been included in this text? You go again to the advert, you look for the statistics, and if you see any of them there, that's the answer. And sometimes advertisers uses words such as 100 years warranty or 100 years in existence or established since many years ago. Why would they do that? They do that to show credibility of the advert, of the product, or to show that it's been in existence for a very long time, which makes you want to have it or believe that this is the right product for you, right?
Yeah, there's examples of it. There's the KFC one. We've been saying bucket since 1968. Can you believe it? So these are little tricks that you need to pick up. So if I include any dates in whatever way, that shows that this product is trustworthy. It's credible. Obviously, you're going to want to buy a product that has been there for 100 years.
Exactly.
Because you know it works.
You know people have used it 100 years ago. You are not the sampling group or the sample group.
That's perfect.
Good.
Thank you.
Now look at the advert. What did somebody have to do? This is the question. And you know what, grade 12? We'll give you a minute to do this. We'll be right back. Just a minute.
Right, so we're busy looking at this advertisement. Now, there's just a star with a face and it's an upside down smile. And it says somebody had to do it, but you have absolutely no clue what
it is that needs to be done.
Exactly. So let's go to the text. Okay, somebody had to do it. It's a new big boy in town. The super heavyweight beef burger at Dallas. Oh, whopping 500 grams of char-grilled prime beef stacked with bacon, tomatoes, lettuce, pickles, and mayonnaise, served on an enormous 9-inch sesame seed bun. So here's the big challenge. If you can finish a mighty beast burger on your own in less than 30 minutes, oh my goodness, and turn your plate upside down, it's on the house. Oh, wow.
I am running to get this. I'm running to get this.
Absolutely. So, but I wanted you to notice here, they use very specific words to show us how big this is.
Yeah.
Not only did they use the word big, they use super heavyweight. They used a whopping, enormous, big challenge. So you have to pick up on all these little small things that they use just to get you ready. So I can't imagine how big this burger is, but I think Mandisha and I will, after this session, we'll go and find this.
We definitely need to find it. We definitely need to find it. Now, we are going to be looking at what the connection is between the text and the visual. We've already touched on it briefly. And here we are. We've got Burger King presents the pregnancy Whopper. And here we go.
So can you just imagine? I want you to stop it. Imagine what it would look like if we had a pregnancy Whopper.
Oh, this is exactly what it would look like.
And this is what it is, talking about burgers.
So now when you look at this visual and you look at the words, you think about why? What is the link between this? When you hear the word pregnancy and you look at this burger, what is the association between the two? And that must be brought forward so clearly that you explain it for the marker to be able to award you the marks that you actually deserve, right? So you need to be able to then connect the visuals and the words that are provided for you or to you.
So if you look at this one, just go back. Can you see here, there's actually ice cream on the one burger and pickles and cream on the other. So obviously, if you're pregnant, you have very strange taste, don't you?
And not only that, look at how big this burger is. It's actually a very pregnant burger.
Can you see? So there's multiple layers just to use pregnancy. Well done.
Exactly. And as you do that, you can actually even explain literally this is what it is. Figuratively, this is what you see, and you're going to impress the marker.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, who's the target audience? I'd love to ask this question. Now, the thing is, who's going to buy this product? Who's going to put this product into their trolley? Now, please be careful. Never can you say people. Never. It's way too vague. Be very specific. Start your answer with people who. Like
chocolates
or
school shoes
or women who are pregnant.
Yeah.
That will be for a previous one, but be very specific.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Exactly. And now we've got the difference between a logo and a slogan. You can see it. You've had just do it. It's finger licking good. Save money, live better, think differently. Impossible is nothing, etc., etc. You must be able to identify what a logo is and what a slogan is. They are two completely different things, grade 12s. And how does the logo or slogan fit in with the advertisement? Now, you think about it. How does it link or how does it fit? Let's look, for example, at the McDonald's one. No, not the McDonald's, the BMW. You see what that burger effect has on it now? It's the BMW. It says the ultimate driving machine. So you can already see there's a kind of a link between the two. And when you look at the advert, perhaps that advert would have a big BMW machine. And we already know that this is a driving machine. When you move in this, it feels like a machine, unlike any other car that is on the road. No? Yeah.
A lot of time contact details are included. And the question arises, why are they there? Now, there are so many options available to you. Now, obviously, if I were asked you to give a list of 2 to 3 versus a list that you can actually give, obviously to contact the shop, to get more information, obviously to complain. A lot of time you can actually read other people's reviews about the product online. You can find the location of a shop. You can even write a review.
Yeah.
So this is the reasons there's context.
Exactly. So remember, contact sometimes could be in a website, for contact number, or their social media page, which is what you can use to get more information, in fact, about the products, right? Now, is the advertisement effective? This you need to ask yourself. After having looked at it, is it effective? Do you think the advertiser succeeded in convincing you to want to have the product? Is the message of the advert effective? You need to discuss your answer. And some of the answers that we spoke about, remember, we alluded to the absence of some information in the advert, and that can help you say, no, it's not effective because they did not include this, or yes, it is effective because of this and that. And for you to be able to effectively respond to this question, you study the advert. We repeat the word study the advert. Then you prove that you either agree or disagree with the statement. And when you agree, you need to provide evidence from the text that makes you believe that you're convinced. For example, when we are looking here, we can see there's a cup, and in that cup they are putting some what looks like it's fuel, but what's in the cup is actually Coca-Cola. What does it mean? Perhaps this means can fuel your day. When you have the Coca-Cola, you'll feel alive, you'll feel fresh, you'll move as fast as a car that has full tank. So to say, yeah. So it fuels you up to feel good, right? And then not only that, you must answer, your answer should refer specifically to the images or the pictures that are in the text, the words as well as the message communicated in the advertisement. And once all of these are done, then we can easily be convinced that the advert was effective or the advert was not effective. Remember, we spoke about combination answers. That is also a safe place to be, but you need to be clear why you agree, why you disagree. Yes. And then you can get your full marks and use the peel method, as Liz has spoken about it at length.
Right, so now we're moving over to question 4, cartoons.
And guess who's smiling the most?
I love cartoons, so let's see what we have for you. So before you start with the questions, again, take a moment just to analyze your cartoon for yourself. It will take a few minutes to figure out what's happening. Now, first start with the setting. Where is it taking place? And how do you know where it is? Then, second of all, look at your characters. What are they doing? What are they not doing? Who are they? Look at their facial expressions and their body language. And then you have to start looking at verbal and visual clues. And obviously, the big one, is it funny?
Is it funny? Is the humor in this advert?
Exactly. So here's a cartoon for you to analyze. And if you just quickly look at it, if you can just glance at it, you immediately see that we are at a dinner table. We see a table. It's easy as that. Characters, we've got mom. We've got 2 teenagers. How do we know it's teenagers?
Look at the hairstyle.
Look at the hair. It reminds me of my own. But these are little things that you need to pick out. Just say, okay, this is why I know this is a teenager.
Exactly that. And note that the frames are actually numbered. We've got frame 1, frame 2, frame 3, which is meant to help you understand the sequence of events in the exam. But probably in your exam, you'll have it aligned one after the next, depending on how big the frames are, how big the cartoon is, then it will determine how many frames you have. In this case, we have just been given 5, which is the big one that has all the other things inside. But it looks like we are only introduced to scene 5. And as Liz has said, they're sitting on the dinner table. But let's study frame number 1.
Let's start.
Oh my! Look at that. Or is it, oh my? Do you think this person is whispering?
Definitely not. Huh?
And how do we know that?
Big letters, capital, bold. Look at her facial expression. So that's how you connect it. Then,
exactly.
Mouth is wide open, or it's wide open in frame 2, 3.
Oh. Yeah, and not only that, you see the exclamation mark there, which shows that this person is not just saying, oh my, oh my. You know, she is screaming out of her lungs. And then let's look at frame number 2, just fascinating, and waves the hand at. It's unbelievably fascinating. It looks like she doesn't believe what's happening. Oh, look at frame 3. This mommy cannot believe what she's seeing. Now she's put the phone down, hands on the table, burnt down, mouth wide open, eyes wide open. Look at the eyebrows, almost lifted, right? These are some of the things that you need to pay attention to, and some of the terminology that you need to use when you respond to a cartoon question. Now, frame number 4. I'm so glad you are home safely. Have some brownies. There is mommy, and mommy seems to be happy. Now, the question is, what has the son been sending mommy? And look at the friend now in the sun. He says life is better since I started using AI to write my excuses. So do you think this is his excuse? The answer is no. Probably went to Chat GPT and said, how do I lie to my mom, or what excuse can I give? And there he is having a really good time with his friend, enjoying some biscuits. So the question here, or the humor in this, is that he lied to the mom. The mom believes it. As a result, mom is showing up and is supportive of him when in fact the opposite could be happening.
Exactly.
And in the answering of the question of humor, if you allow me, Great Halls, you need to think about it in this way. Someone can say, this is not funny. He's lying to an adult. He could have been in trouble. He could have been whatever. And if he's using AI, he's not allowing himself to think for himself. And this can be a very good answer for someone that says, I don't find this humorous.
Absolutely.
But another person can say, oh, this is absolutely funny. Did you see how the mom reacted? And he got away with it. You would probably, or I would probably do it. And if you find it funny, then you give reason around it. The key thing is that where the humor is, it can either be on the yes or the no. So the key thing is to identify where humor is. Then you can decide if you find it funny or not.
So we started off by analyzing. So just quickly recapping for you. Visual clues are referring to all pictures that you can see. Anything that you can see, in other words, the setting, the characters. You even can go to the next one for me. Body language, facial expressions. So if we ask an exam to identify the visual clues, that is exactly what you'll be looking for. So, here's mom again. She's really having a hard time.
Oh my God.
Now, in this case, you'll see she's not talking. So we have to focus solely on the visuals.
Sure.
And in her first frame, she says, get your, and then she's got a very stinking, I don't know what you call them. It's an animal. We don't know.
It looks like an animal. Maybe it's a bear or something, but it just doesn't smell good.
Now you can just see the way she turns her face and all those little lines.
Exactly.
And then she's got the shoes and off and coffee and a table. It was just almost like, you know, that game where you have to pretend you're saying something without saying a word. This is almost like charade. Okay. So, but the idea is here that you have to look at the visuals to figure out what the message is. And the message is obviously that they have to get their stinking feet off the coffee table because she wants to clean it.
Oh my God.
And then the Jesus guy says, your mom is such a good communicator. And he says, yeah, I'm blessed. And I'm sure he's not saying that.
He doesn't mean it.
Definitely, that's sarcasm, right? Absolutely. Right.
Oh, this is actually absolutely beautiful. There's no words, but the message is clear.
So clear, isn't
So
it?
it's get your stinking feet off the coffee table. That's lovely. That's beautiful. So I wonder if you would have gotten this right, grade 12s. You need to make sure you study and you get it right. You see, it took me a little longer for me to get it, but I get it. So you have to give yourself much more time to study it until you get it.
Analyze. Just work through them and you'll find
Exactly.
it. So we've got visual clues, but we also have verbal clues. Verbal has to do with the words we speak, and that's what we see. So remember, obviously, a cartoon can't speak. So the best way the cartoonist will use them is font, capital letters, punctuation in words.
Exactly.
And again, so mom is really struggling with Jeremy. Jeremy, pick up your shoes. No, I wanted to see. Yeah, exactly. Thank you so much. Jeremy, pick up your shoes. Now look at frame number 3. Now she is really screaming it out. Mandisa, how do you know she's screaming here?
The words are the biggest font.
Exactly.
Different color is used. There's an exclamation mark that has been used as well. So this shows us that she's screaming her lungs out. And in fact, from frame 1, 2, 3, we can see that the voice variation keeps growing.
Absolutely.
And yeah,
that's perfect. And that's the verbal clues that you were picking up then. And then he says, just because I'm not listening doesn't mean I can't hear you. And I'm sure a lot of time your parents are feeling exactly the same when they tell you to do something and you just don't do it. But do you notice the visual and verbal cues?
Exactly.
All right. So one of my favorite things, obviously, is movement line that you find. So we have Calvin. Was it Calvin? And he is busy opening a can. How do I know that? Frame 1, it says wine. So we've got little lines there around the cotton. And then look at frame number 2. If you could just draw a circle for us to see all those lines as he's trying to open this can. Even his little face is doing like
it's in motion.
Exactly. And then in frame 3, we see Hobbs. Hobbs is his tiger, literally pushing him out of there. Look at those lines. We've got a sound imitation as well, really pushing him out of the way. And it says, I remember poor Calvin is saying, it wasn't tuna, it was pineapple C. And you can see, look at the way the speech bubble is formed. To see it's a jagged, spiky, jagged, spiky. I like that word. It's jagged or spiky to show that Calvin is screaming.
Screaming, exactly.
And then obviously all cans sound the same.
Right. Now we look at the sound effect. We've looked at the words, the lines which show movement and the exaggeration that is there. And now we are going to be looking at the sound effect. Cartoonists use onomatopoeia, words that imitate the sound to create a sound effect. For example, snap, zap, boom, wham. So these are some of the words that we get to give us an effect of exactly what is happening in the cartoon, right? And then the contrast, remember we spoke about contrast. This is the difference of, or it means there's some level of comparison. Indicates the contrast between characters. So you need to focus on the same thing. If we are looking at the two characters here, what are some of the features that we can focus on? For example, let's look at the arms. One is holding her head. The other one is holding a cup of what seems to be coffee. The other one is almost leaning forward, but the lady is leaning backwards, right? Let's look at their mouth. Mouth closed. Mouth, there's a green there. You see that? We've got that. And then you can talk about anything that really is different from one character to the next. The most important thing, you cannot speak about something that is not clear from both of them. For example, you can't comment about the eyes because we can't see the eyes of the lady. So then the comparison will be ineffective. But you can speak about the hands, you can speak about posture, you can speak about the mouth because that is evidently provided to us. Please remember that when we talk about contrast, it's apples with apples, banana with banana. We cannot compare apples with banana. Right? Now, eyes of a character, we've spoken about it. Mouth of character 1 compared to mouth of character 2. Action of character A1 compared to action of character 2. Now we move to how do you know the character is feeling?
So this is a question that you might find as well, where the question is, how do you know a character is feeling angry, surprised, sad, whatever? And you have to give us a visual clue. It will be quite specific to say a visual clue. Now, where do you start? The easiest part is to start with a facial expression. Please do not write down facial expression. You have to be very specific. And the best place to start with the eyes and the mouth. These are the two things that a cartoonist will use to indicate an emotion. Then You need to look at the body position.
Mm-hmm.
Is it leaning forward?
Mm-hmm.
Is it leaning backwards? And then hands and arms. So please be specific. Don't just say facial expression and body language. Never.
Exactly.
Be very specific to tell me, why is this person feeling, and how do you know that, using your visual clues that are available to you.
Mm-hmm. Or maybe you want to have a look at the different.
Yeah, I'm just looking at one. Look at this little girl here at the bottom.
She's my favorite.
Oh, mine as well.
Looks like this victory.
Absolutely. And how do you know it? Look at that. We start. Eyes are wide open. Mouth is wide open. Do you mind to write wide?
Oh, please, definitely.
So
wide.
Please make sure you spell wide correctly. You cannot write wild, because there's a complete difference between wide open and wild open.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, should you write the eyes are wild open, it's incorrect immediately. So make sure it's wide open. And you can see the way she's standing, first hands on, first arms outstretched, and obviously this is a victory that she's showing.
And then we can look at another one there. She looks a little bit shy.
She is. I mean, she's sad. So her eyes are covered. So immediately she doesn't want us to see what's happening. You need to explain that to me, that we can't see her eyes. Her eyes are covered with her hands. And it really looks like she's almost bending forward, you know. She obviously, if you compare the two, completely different. Absolutely. And our poor gentleman with the glasses here on the right hand side, he's completely confused. It sounds. Look at his little.
Holding his head.
He's looking. Look at his eyebrows. Yeah. So be very specific in what you tell us.
And do you need to look into the different aspects of the, like Elizabeth said, focus on the eyes, focus on the mouth.
Nice.
Let's look at the body. Let's look at the arms, and all these things are the ones that are determining whether the person is sad, happy, confused, angry, bored.
I hope you're not bored.
No, I don't think you are.
No, they shouldn't.
You can't be. And then here we've got some interesting cartoon frames that we have. These are some of the examples, Great House. And I think we've explained it so well to you that you now have an idea of what to expect in a cartoon. Let's look at this. I told you so. When you look at this cartoon, there's this gentleman who seems like he's moving from point A to point B. And if you remember well, we use these cartoons, these cartoon frames almost as a scene. If this was a book, this would be scene 1, scene 2, scene 3. But because we just have limited space for a cartoon, there we've got this gentleman that is moving. And we can see this man moving from the first scene right through the last one. And what's happening there? Let's see. Lose another bet with your mom. She's such a sore winner. But
you know, your moms are allowed to say these words to you when you've done something. I told you so.
Yeah. This is exactly what we are seeing here. And we can see that someone didn't win. Doesn't look like he got what he wanted out of this. So this is what the cartoon is basically about. Now,
so yeah, one of the questions, just like with the advertisement, is an open-ended question that I love asking you is, did you find the cartoon humorous? Now, humorous means, do you find it funny? Now, whether you agree with it being funny or not, there's a certain way that you have to answer it. And you have to look at the pictures. So you have to explain to me what happened in the cartoon. Again, pretend the market can't see what you are seeing. So tell me what you see, refer to the words, and make that connection. But you are welcome to say, no, it's not funny at all. Most definitely. As long as you can give me reasons from the text to say why it's not funny. Refer to the pictures and the words.
Exactly. Humor in cartoons, and then we are going to be looking at the irony. I believe you already know the irony question by now. Remember, Great Halls, irony we are looking at, it's opposite versus reality. So this is what is expected, but this is what is happening. And note the use of the word but. This is what is expected, but this is what is happening, or yet this is what is happening. Let's look, for example, at some of these pictures. When you ask him, this was your idea. You ask him. And what is ironic about this? The irony is that the gentleman wants information, but he would rather have the lady ask that question. So if you were to answer this, we expect the man who is seeking information to ask personally, yet he is sending the lady to go and ask the question on his behalf. So both ideas need to be presented. What is happening? What is expected? And there must be that conjunction or that contrasting conjunction in there to show the argument in between, to say this is what we expect and this is what's happening. Then look at the next one. Fine. He's on his phone. Jeremy, will you activate our new teen tracker app for me, please? This is some kind of an irony test. And again, we are seeing yet another irony to say, are you kidding me? Can you imagine if someone says, will you activate something to track you? Then it's ironic in the sense that you want to track me, yet you want me to be the one that is actually activating the tracker. So Jeremy is obviously not up for it because he does not want to be tracked, right? So that is exactly what's happening. So when you look at this and you read the cartoon up to the end, which is what you need to do, grade 12s. If you notice what I did, I read the first frame, already made conclusions about it, but you need to read right up to the end so that you have a clear understanding of what is happening. If you're fortunate enough, maybe the examiner can say, find the irony in frame 1.
Exactly.
Or the examiner can say, find the irony in frame number 3. The key thing is you must have the understanding of what's happening in all of that. Right.
Look how beautiful you wrote your batch. Just exactly what
the batch is. So that's exactly the explanation of what we've spoken to you about. And here's a little laugh.
Yeah. Let me explain to you why we chose the irony. Irony is the one that comes forward the most in cartoons. We find it the most. It's the easiest to recognize as well. So if you're not sure, this is now a tip. If you're not sure, play the irony card. You never know, it might just work. Yeah. So here's another one just to laugh a little bit. Mom, do you have extra hangers? Why? For my clothes. If you want to hang your clothes up, yeah. Jeremy, that's great.
Oh, and look at that hug. Mommy's so excited.
I'm so excited. You don't know how long I've waited for this day. What made you change your mind? Maturity, common sense, motherly advice? My floor is full.
So nothing about maturity, nothing about motherly advice. He just can't contain the clothes on the floor anymore.
And you can see there's a mountain. Can you see how it's exaggerated? It's completely exaggerated. It's literally piling out of a door.
That's funny. I hope you're not that grade 12. And an important tip is study the cartoon first before looking at the questions. Analyze it for yourself. Read the questions carefully and refer only to the specific frame if you are referred to it. So you don't look at frame number 2 when you've been guided to look at frame number 1. Unless if it says refer to the cartoon as a whole, then only then you can look at it as a whole. And finally, pretend the examiner cannot see the cartoon. So you have to be very detailed, explicit. Give us everything. And once we have everything, you can have everything. And you know what your everything is? Marks.
I like that. So our last section that we're coming to is question 5. Language and editing, 20 marks. So it's going to be divided into 2 parts. You're going to have a small text and you're going to have a visual text. So it's probably 14 marks will be based on your text and 6 marks will be based on the visual text. But it's all language questions and there are so many language things that they are able to ask you.
That is so true. The first question that you're going to come across is correcting the single error in each of the following sentences. I say this and I will say it again. The examiner did not make a mistake. There is an error that you need to find. You have to find it. Because what often happens, you look at it and you think, there's no mistake this time around. And no, you are on the wrong in this case. There's definitely an error. But perhaps what you need to do is, what type of errors do you need to look for? What kind of things are you supposed to zoom into for you to look into that question and be confident that you've identified everything? One, there is one error on each sentence. You need to correct it, and then you only write down the answer. So it's going to be 5.1.1 A, B, C, D. Then you correct the error. Now let's look at some of the mistakes that can actually come across. One is spelling. So receive, for example, the examiner can choose to put the E before the I, vice versa, and that is why it becomes incorrect. The apostrophe error. The use of an apostrophe. Remember, we've got two functions of an apostrophe. We use it to show possession. We also use it to show omission. So when we omit, for example, when we use words such as didn't, the expectation is that your apostrophe will come between the N and the T, because we have omitted the O, the zero. Correct?
Absolutely.
The zero. We've omitted the O. We've omitted the O in the word, and therefore that shows that we have shortened the word. But if it's possession, that is when we are going to say Lerado's pen. This pen belongs to Lerado. Or Pinky's pencil case. So we have Pinky apostrophe S. That is an indication of possession. But I also want to highlight something. The manner in which we use our apostrophe for a singular form and a plural form is slightly different. So if we are talking about things that belong to a group of girls, so it's girls, that we put the apostrophe after the S, which shows that it doesn't just belong to one girl, but it belongs to these girls, both of them together. Hence, we put the apostrophe there. So if at any given time they're talking about the girls in plural, but the examiner has put an apostrophe here, then you know this is the identified error that you need to focus on, grade 12. I know this sounds like a lot of information, but I know you've got it because it's revision. We also then look at the concord. Does the object and the verb agree? When you look at the sentence, is there a concord and the object and verb agreement? For example, the boy, the boys, for example, the boy kicked the ball. No. Example, a different example. This is not what I want to say.
The boy, instead of saying the boys kicks, so that would be wrong.
Yeah.
So the subject and the verb,
that's correct,
don't agree with each other.
So the correct one would be the boy kicks the ball.
Yes.
That's correct.
Yes.
I hope you get it. And then words that are often confused. So we've got words that are often confused. For example, there. These are some of the words that are often confused. And you have to be aware which one to use and when to use it. We've got a preposition error. Instead of saying in, you say on, between, etc. And then we've got tenses. So have this list. As you look at the sentences, you start first on, is the spelling correct? If all spellings are right, you move. Is the apostrophe correctly used? If that's the case, you move to the next one until you identify all the different errors that are evident there.
So these are all the topics that you obviously need to learn for tomorrow's paper. And there's so many things, but we're just highlighting the most important ones. Part of speech, you have to know each one. You must be able to recognize it in a sentence. Then with specific words, you have to know what's the difference between a prefix, a suffix, and the root word. Tenses, you might be asked to change a tense from one tense to the other. Be very careful about how they ask it. What tense do they want to be changed into?
Yes.
So be very specific. Is it only the past tense or is it past continuous tense, for instance? So just read your question very carefully.
Mm-hmm.
Active and passive, remember, be careful, it can go either way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Doesn't always mean from active to passive, it can be from passive to active as well. And then reported speech, oh, you have to be so careful of all that punctuation. Just let it go. Just let it go. And then conjunctions, make sure it makes sense to you. Always read it in your mind to see, does it make sense?
And with all of this, great house, our last tip would be use your time wisely. We spoke about time at the beginning of the session. We are speaking of the time again now. You have to use it wisely. Read the questions carefully. What exactly do you need to do? And then you act accordingly. Look at the marker location. And when you have completed the paper, go back and check your answers. Have you answered all the questions? Have you numbered correctly? Very important, you have to keep the numbering exactly as it appears on the question paper. Even if the question paper numbering is incorrect, which I doubt will happen, you use the exact one. So if the question paper has 1.1, 1.2, 1.2, I expect to see 1.1, 1.2, 1.2 in your answer book, because the exam panel will make a reservation for that. It is not your responsibility to correct it, because you will lose marks, please. Then ask yourself this question: did you follow all the instructions of the summary? And are you happy with your work? And once all of these are done, then we've got homework for you. This is the homework, and I know you will do it well. The continued homework, you take a screenshot and a short review.
Yeah, so tomorrow you're writing paper 1, and then your next one will obviously be paper 2, the revision, just before you write. And the revision will take place on the 12th of November. So make sure that you look up again, make sure that you jump into this lesson, revision lesson on the 12th of November for paper 2.
We are set to say goodbye.
We are.
But we are confident you're going to do your best, grade 12s. All the best, and all the best.
We wish you only wonderful thoughts, clear minds, and fast pens.
Exactly that. Good rest. Get the rest, a bit of rest today, and make sure that you go into your examination very confident, well rested, and very well prepared. We've gone a little bit past our time, but because we want to give you the best of ourselves, grade 12s, have a wonderful afternoon. Goodbye.